Hey up! In this video, my doubting friends think I'm deluded.
Here we go, boys. Robotaxis here in the UK within 4 years. There we go. You've seen it here.
But despite them laughing in my face, here's the video I'm going to show why my prediction for robotaxis here in the UK will be within 4 years. Young people won't even bother learning to drive. They'll just take a Tesla. So, let's get into it. I truly believe that Tesla will have robotaxis on the roads here in the UK by 2027. And in this video, I will explain why. But first, let's have a bit of a history lesson. Stick with me, it'll all make sense. The iPhone didn't come out in 2005 or 2006. It actually came out in 2007. So let's have a look at Steve Jobs in the reveal.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is.
So why was that? It was because there was a convergence of technology that enabled it to happen. The compute power was now powerful enough. Touchscreens had been invented and we had a brilliant entrepreneur in Steve Jobs and Apple to make it happen. Let's see what Tony Seba has to say in one of his presentations. And if you haven't seen any of Tony's work and the rest of the team from Rethink X, I'll leave a link to the rest of this video in the description for you to check it out for yourself.
But the big disruptions, the phase change disruptions, happen because of something that I call technology convergence. Now, what is a convergence? Let's go back to 2007, when both the iPhone and Android basically became possible. Both of them happened the same year, 2007. But why not 2003 or 2010? Why 2007? That's because the technologies that made a $600 smartphone possible essentially converged 2007. And that's when Apple and Google came into the space and essentially developed a smartphone, and now they're both multi-trillion-dollar companies. So technology convergence opens up the possibility space. The other lesson is that neither Apple nor Google had ever built a phone before. So disruptions, the phase change disruptions, happen from the edge, not from the center. The incumbents at the time, Motorola, remember them? BlackBerry, remember them? They could have got into the space, but they did not see it coming. Microsoft did not see it coming. They actually dismissed the smartphone loudly.
So, what about robotaxis? Why now? Especially since Elon's been saying that full self-driving will be delivered this year for the past 7 years or so. Elon's great at delivering the impossible late. Don't believe me? Let's see what many people thought to be impossible, the landing of rockets.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Center core beginning deep throttle.
Under the power of 5.1 million pounds of thrust, Falcon Heavy is headed to space.
Pico.
Booster separation confirmed.
Successful separation if you can hear me over the cheering. Side boosters now beginning a flip to begin returning back to Cape Canaveral.
Boost back point.
Miko.
Main engine cut off, center core shut
Stage
down.
separation confirmed.
Here comes the fairing separation, and there it goes.
Today, we'll be attempting to recover all 3 of the first stage cores, and all 3 boosters are currently on their way heading home. In just a few minutes, the side boosters will execute an entry burn, followed by a landing burn, and the center core will do much the same a few minutes later.
Coming up in about 5 seconds here, the side boosters landing burn will begin as well.
Side booster landing burn has started.
See the side boosters coming down. An amazing view. You can hear our crowd going crazy right now. Both side boosters has landed on our landing pads. Zone 1 and Zone 2. What an amazing sight to see. So again, as we mentioned earlier, this is going to be a challenging landing.
Stage 1 landing
And we are
is starting.
landing on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. And
Center core runways are deployed.
looks like we lost the live view. It sounds like we landed the center core on our drone ship. We have landed the center core for the first time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. For the first time, we've landed all 3 boosters for Falcon Heavy. What an amazing day.
Spacecraft separation confirmed.
So back to the level 5 autonomy problem. Tesla has been working on it for years, and in 2021 they had an AI day to explain everything that they were doing to solve autonomy. Here's a short clip of Andre Karpathy showing what they were working on.
Welcome. My name is Andre, and I lead the vision team here at Tesla Autopilot, and I'm incredibly excited to be here to kick off this section, giving you a technical deep dive into the Autopilot stack and showing you all the under-the-hood components that go into making the car drive all by itself. So we're going to start off with the vision component here. Now, in the vision component, what we're trying to do is we're trying to design a neural network that processes the raw information, which in our case is the 8 cameras that are positioned around the vehicle. And they send us images, and we need to process that in real time into what we call the vector space. And this is a 3-dimensional representation of everything you need for driving. So this is the 3-dimensional positions of lines, edges, curbs, traffic signs, traffic lights, cars, their positions, orientations, depths, velocities, and so on. So here I'm showing the video of the raw inputs that come into the stack, and then the neural network processes that into the vector space. And you are seeing parts of that vector space rendered in the instrument cluster on the car. Now, what I find kind of fascinating about this is that we are effectively building a synthetic animal from the ground up. So the car can be thought of as an animal. It moves around, it senses the environment, and acts autonomously and intelligently. And we are building all of the components from scratch in-house. So we are building, of course, all of the mechanical components of the body, the nervous system, which is all of the electrical components, and for our purposes, the brain of the autopilot, and specifically for this section, the synthetic visual cortex. Now, the biological visual cortex actually has quite intricate structure and a number of areas that organize the information flow of this brain. And so in particular, in your visual cortices, the information hits the light hits the retina, goes through the LGN all the way to the back of your visual cortex, goes through areas V1, V2, V4, the IT, the ventral and the dorsal streams, and the information is organized in a certain layout. And so when we are designing the visual cortex of the car, we also want to design the neural network architecture of how the information flows in the system. So the processing starts in the beginning when light hits our artificial retina, and we are going to process this information with neural networks. Now, I'm going to roughly organize this section chronologically. So starting off with some of the neural networks and what they looked like roughly 4 years ago when I joined the team, and how they have developed over time. So roughly 4 years ago, the car was mostly driving in a single lane, going forward on the highway, and so it had to keep lane and it had to keep distance away from the car in front of us. And at that time, all of processing was only on individual image level. So a single image has to be analyzed by a neural net and make little pieces of the vector space, process that into little pieces of the vector space. So this processing took the following shape. We take a 1280 by 960 input, and this is 12-bit integers streaming in at roughly 36 hertz. Now we're going to process that with a neural network. So we instantiate a feature extractor backbone. In this case, we use residual neural networks. So we have a stem and a number of residual blocks connected in series. Now, the specific class of ResNets that we use are RegNets, because RegNets offer a very nice design space for neural networks because they allow you to very nicely trade off latency and accuracy. Now, these RegNets give us, as an output, a number of features at different resolutions and different scales. So in particular, on the very bottom of this feature hierarchy, we have very high resolution information with very low channel.
Did that go over your head? I know it certainly went over mine, but what it does demonstrate is that Tesla have got some brilliant minds, including Elon's, on this, and they've been working on this problem for a very long time. It's always been just a year away, like fusion energy has always been 30 years away, and that'll solve all our energy needs. Fusion? What? We don't need it. There's a great big fusion reactor in the sky. We call it the sun. It shows up every morning and provides us with everything we could possibly need. Solar, wind and batteries will do it. See the other Tony Sieber video. There's a link in the description. Anyway, enough of that rant. Back to the subject in hand. What's changed? Why do I firmly believe that full self-driving robotaxis are right around the corner? Let's take a look at this drive of full self-driving version 12 driven by Elon and co-piloted by Ashok Eluswamy, the director of autopilot at Tesla.
So here we are. We're just leaving Tesla headquarters and we just dropped a random pin at Stanford or whatever. So let's go. Actually, well, let's see. Okay, so here we're kind of, let's see, added to kind of random spot. It's going to be pretty wobbly. But it's really smooth sailing in the car itself. And here we're encountering some construction. And the car is just driving around the construction. So it has never seen this construction before. Well, it is near the headquarters, but this construction is relatively new. And it's in exactly the right lane, but now it's going over to the right lane. Okay, great. You can see the destination. Hopefully nobody meets us there. Let's see, is this working? Is this live stream working? Hello?
Go check on my phone.
entirely AI and cameras. Just like our brain works, which is neural nets and eyes. Yep, I just slow down for a speed bump, which is cool. I just slow down for another speed bump. And we did not program in, there's no line of code that says slow down for speed bumps. So it is doing this based entirely on video training.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, and there's a bicyclist. Again, there is no line of code that says give clearance to bicyclists. It is just doing what people do. Once again, there is no line of code that says stop at a stop sign or wait for another car.
Who came first or
who came, there's not like wait X number of seconds, nothing like that. Nothing. This is all nets, baby. Nothing but nets. And when we get to our destination, we'll change the pin. It's like drop it somewhere else random. Maybe we'll run into Zuckerberg and we can challenge him to a fight. That'd be fun. Spice it up. He's not traveling somewhere to his backyard. So here we are at a roundabout. So roundabouts are obviously pretty complicated.
It's waited for those two cars.
Yep, it just waited for those two cars to go and then did the turn. I'm being somewhat repetitive about this, but we have never programmed in the concept of a roundabout. We just showed a whole bunch of videos of roundabouts. So a lot.
A big fleet helps.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need a lot of training data, a lot of video training data in order to make this work. So you need really billions of dollars of training hardware, and you need to know how to run the neural net training hardware. So it's not like easy, but the mind-blowing thing is that there's no heuristics. There's no like lines of code. Like there's a guy on a scooter. It doesn't know what a scooter is. It doesn't know what paddles are. It's literally just been given a lot of video.
So in essence, they have the problem solved. It's now just a matter of training the AI. They have a huge fleet of vehicles, over 5 million at this point in 2023, and at a 50% compound annual growth rate, which is their target. And if you don't know what that is, I'll explain. The current annual rate, which is about 1.8 million this year, multiply that by 1.5, in other words 50%, 2.7 million. And again, 4.04 million. You get the picture. So that takes us all the way up to 20 million by 2030. But there won't be a demand for all them Teslas. There doesn't need to be a demand. They can be utilised by themselves in their own robotaxi fleet. Teslas are going to have their ChatGPT moment, and it's not far away. 2024 in the US, in my opinion, and I'm being conservative in my estimate. 2027 here in the UK. And in my bet with Andy, it was £1. So, yeah. Anyway, right. So that'll do it for today. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X at Vincent Gledhill or support the channel on Patreon. Until next time, stay green.